Keeping an eye on the back in the parking lot here. So this is most everybody that's pulled in, and I expect this to be as much a question and answer as you're going to sit here for 25 minutes or half hour, hear detailed explanation of the project. I recognize many of you and realize you're either directly on the route, or looks like there's a fair number of timber lane folks here wondering about access on home. So tonight's the objective is to allow you to ask questions of the contractor, Meg Richland, at the end. We were talking when I was commissioner in the 80s. Their business was just starting out, and her son wasn't working the job. She was there to bid over. So that's kind of a neat aspect. It's a good bit about having a local contractor who knows, if you will, how important Portland Way is to the community. So bids were open. That was a good thing. Ben, correct? Yes. So we've got that. I remember. Ed Yetzer from ODOT, I think your area engineer over this. Is that correct? No? Okay. Josh Schlega, who is the designer hired by the city to put plans together. And then Matt Walter, I think we worked together a long time ago. I think he's one of the top guys over there, actually. So we appreciate Matt being here and from ODOT. So with that, I will, I think, allow Josh, unless there's any particular order, to explain a little bit about the project, how long it's been under design, and a little bit about the time it's been taken to maximize what you would call, they would call in their world, maintenance of traffic. So if you're kind of concerned about how much access there'll be out there during construction, we hope to be able to answer some of those questions. With that, I'll just ask Josh to kind of explain what you've been seeing weekend and see how well we do in laying out the project.
Thank you, Mayor. We've been working with the city for several years, putting this project together. We probably talked to many of you back in early 2020 when we had the initial. But really, one of the main driving factors of this was safety concerns. We worked with the city to put together at that time it was called a safety study, and which was really the first step in obtaining funding to help the city put together this project and really build a very creative funding package to make this large project affordable for everybody in this community. So we started back in 2019 with the plan development process, looking at taking a 2-lane road, making it 3 lanes, that 72-way lanes. To be able to do that, it's going to be a pretty large project. Carter all the way north of Grant, and that construction is going to be could be very impactful to the community. But one of the main topics that we've had at every meeting that we with the city administration is construction. That's the key point, key road access to the city, grocery stores, businesses, and homes. It's main, probably one of the highest from the road.
Yeah, so I think the intersection down here is the most traveled one in the county, but yeah, that's the big numbers for us.
Right. So, the first step we thought was, well, as an engineer, the easiest way to build this was, well, let's try to limit traffic. And the mayor said, absolutely, we need to find a way to maintain 2-way traffic at all times. And that's when we kind of settled on the partner with construction. Got temporary pavement on the west side, and then that will allow 2 lanes of traffic while they're building the east side. Once the east side of the road will switch traffic, and that will be maintaining that flow of traffic similar to what we have today. Now, obviously, there's going to be some construction that's going to impact that from day to day. It won't be quite as great, but we think the overall end product of having that same 2-way left turn lane now is going to help the safety of the road, but also help with. So with that, we'll see shipping traffic on one side of the election, the other side. We will allow some night work only for the areas in the north end of the project. Outside of the residential area, we will let that night work get that through. Make great progress in off-peak hours, with less traffic. That's our goal for allowing that. That by doing this, we're going to be able to continue the road and help the large disruption, because we have the detours just aren't convenient, and that's why we want to make sure that we have some solutions. That's really the overall design part of how we decided to maintain schedule and
Yeah, talk about when we start where, and then work north. Josh said we're gonna work west side and then east side. The traffic will be on the opposite side of that, but that,
Well, what we're planning to do is when we can start their materials, we're still working on the materials.
Can you speak up, please?
As soon as we get our materials together, which there's some delivery issues this year with, as a result of COVID-19. We'll start with storm sewer crossings and temporary pavement. That's pretty much what we hope to get done this year and of course into the spring, but the winter weather will determine where we stop. With the temporary pavement, we will cross some driveways. When we cross the driveways, once that are wide enough, we'll be able to do those in two sections. The ones that aren't, we'll be able to excavate out, put stone in, put steel plates down. For the concrete, we plan to use an MS concrete, which cures in 24 hours, and then you can be back driving over it. So we hope to minimize any inconvenience to your access to your driveway. We will give you notice. Normally what we do in a residential situation is we print out bright green papers, trying to door to door and say, this is what we're going to be doing in the next couple of days so that you have plenty of time to know.
So, after the storm sewer crossing the temporary pavement, no barrier wall is going to go up until the spring. That is when the most impact is going to happen. Kind of our plan is to get some of the preliminary stuff out of the way this fall, so that when the spring hits, we can get the barrier wall up, go right into widening, and limit the amount of time that the barrier walls up for each phase.
You know, I guess one thing that I have to say, contractor is we're conscious of what the residents' needs are, the business owners' needs are, but working in a part with construction situation, contractor is faced with a lot of traffic. And people are tense in the morning, people are tense at the end of the day. They're angry, and when they have to drive through a construction zone, it's the contractor's fault. They're slowing them down. So, we have to work to minimize the inconvenience to both sides. And we all want to go home at the end of the day, the same way we came in the morning.
any questions at this point?
You're going to use the west side to put that temporary road down. Coming out of Timberlane, is the sight line to be maintained, the chiropractor sign, which will have to be adjusted. We may not be able to see.
The chiropractor side right now will be removed from this project. Accommodate site distance, that's going to be with the existing right of way. But make feel that they should, the site is.
So it's gonna go down and then allowed to be back up.
If it is an issue, that's what we're going to get. Pretty far back that actually. Inside the site. That intersection is a. In a temporary pavement, you could do it. Point of reference, is the edge of temporary pavement. Here's the edge of the.
Will the speed limit be reduced because of the construction zone from the current 35?
Yeah, that's something.
What about up north? Will the speed be reduced up there?
You put better. Paving that we're doing here, maintaining the. Yeah, 45 miles per hour. Speed limit. That require any reduction of speed. That's for the plan right now.
Other questions? Do we have? Go ahead, please.
Business wise, with the driveway, I guess I was a little unclear. You will give us warning how many days ahead, and then does that mean no traffic across there, or you'll have something that we can drive across?
There'll be something you can drive across.
Okay, it just,
The drives that are wide enough that, 25 or 30 foot wide, we can split that in half and do part of it one day, and then you can drive on it, flip it over, and get the other half. The ones that are narrow, we'll plate them with wet them with snow or asphalt so that you can,
so it shouldn't impact business.
people might have to slow down, turn it in, and come out, but just let it access to it.
The barrier wall, is it gonna be a full-length barrier wall or partial to have access to businesses?
It is going to be partial, so essentially at every driveway, there's a break in it. Places that have two driveways. One of the drives will be covered up with a barrier wall, and the other one will be open. When the one that's open is constructed, then we'll pop the barrier wall and the attenuator so that you can use
Those wooden stakes that you guys have out there. Is that where the road's gonna be up into those people, driveway?
It's the utilities. It's the flagging for the utilities.
The ones that are wooden though.
You put those in? It's not that,
Cause
so
that
it's
takes
not
up
a.
some people's whole front yard.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think
Wow.
that's probably where the gas line is gonna go or identifies the water. Yeah. But Mid-Ohio has been out there
Right.
and that's, it's their identification mark. It's not Richland yet, it's not. This is gonna be Richland ODOT's project, and I'll just sit back and complain on your behalf. But no, it's the, so I think that's one thing I want to say. What other questions? Please?
I want to know what happened to the money that was given to the city. Taking property, right away, roads. There was money that was given to the city for right away, pay the city for the right, or that the city was supposed to pay to us for the right. Where is the money?
Would you have, so you had a settlement with the
I
city?
didn't have
on-
anything. We moved out there the 1st of September.
Okay,
The woman that was in there before lived there long enough to take the money and run. However much it was. How much was it?
well, we can find that out for you. I'd rather find out which property you're talking about, how much money it was.
Closest to the road.
Yeah, what out the intersection?
We're south of the intersection, south
But out-
of Timberland.
Oh, okay,
And our house
Six-
is the closest.
yeah.
624.
We're gonna have cars right up in the backyard. We might take the tree
No,
down.
I don't think, we can show you that on
It's
the
pretty
plans.
close. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Is there any plans for sidewalks after all this is said and done?
No,
Oh,
the it's a cost factor, quite honestly. We made a decision not to put it where it wasn't before, and what we found, I believe, at the previous meeting, one of these meetings, is it was about a 50-50 split among people who wanted sidewalks and people who did. So there are no additional sidewalks added. There'll be a little one added requirement of some of the funders in the ODOT safety program, right down there by Arby's and Drug Mart. Right there, it kind of stops and you can't. So that will be added, but no, on say going out to Dairy Queen or out that way. No.
I was just thinking primarily in town because, you know, obviously my folks are new to the neighborhood here in September. And I'm trying to envision an extra road width there. And I'm thinking, okay, there's a tree in the front yard, extra road width. Anyone who walks through there now is already up against the tree. By the time you put a normal highway down there, they're gonna be walking on the berm of the concrete, hopefully not getting sucked out into traffic.
Yeah, I think I think it'd be
It
smart.
would be good if we could take.
Yeah, we'll show you where it's at, where the road.
That's my concern, is there's not much left there now. You put the road down.
Yeah,
How much more is left?
How many feet of pavement are we talking about?
Just to get an idea how much. There's not much.
Yeah, it depends on exactly where. Right now, you have, say, approximately 36 foot wide, that's 6 foot per side, maximum that you're gonna see.
Okay.
And if the driveway is so short now, it took me 10 minutes to get out of my own driveway.
Yeah,
That's a crazy, that's a crazy it gets there.
yeah, I think
3 o'clock in the morning is ridiculous.
the logic or the, if you will, the justification for it, I think you can see, it's hard to do this because once a new highway is open, everybody can cut it. Or you just sort of assume it's always been there. But if you remember what it was like down at McDonald's before that third lane was, and it's a residential, that was really hard to get out. Now they professionally they don't call it the suicide lane, but that's sometimes what this is called. We kind of pull out in the middle. That's what this would be like. But the point I wanted to make is it's only 6 foot on either side. And so that was another consideration about the sidewalk and the curb and gutter, is that you are going to eat up more of the front yard, and that sidewalk would be. So,
I'd be all for sidewalks.
yeah, I know, I would say without, it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't on the sidewalk. What would have happened, and maybe when somebody could hear that, how many more tens of thousands that would have added to the project. It's
I just
significant.
want to think, because this kind of puts me in mind of what you did on the other side of Portland, right? That
Yes.
same temporary sort of highway and that kind of flow, which, I mean, honestly, if there's a way to maintain 25-mile-an-hour traffic jam, okay, because I'll tell you what, 35, they add 10 to it. So, you know, that's just the way, so I'll be all in favor of seeing it slow down, just to give it half a chance.
And we'll keep an eye on that. There's another ODOT who will be the daily person. I think the good news is that he's a local, he's a galleon. I won't tell you where he lives or something. It's, he's not remote to it. He understands the corridor.
Yeah.
This is a huge project for us, but it's, you know, the contractors of ODOT, it's not just another contract, but it's not, they're used to doing this maybe more so than we are used to dealing with them.
I did have to say something about the pipeline guys that came in.
Yes.
Middle Ohio,
Yes.
those were some of the nicest men that I think we've ever met.
Yeah.
They had even took big brooms and cleaned off a little bit of driveway, you know, that was there. He does it.
I
I mean, he really does that.
would agree with
They
that.
were just really nice and hardworking guys.
You'll be pulling some weeds out when they put their seed.
What would be the, if you had a magic wand, what would you say the end date is?
Yeah.
You can't predict the weather, obviously, but there has to be some sort of timeline.
October 22,
Okay, so
end of October.
I think one of our big concerns will be monitoring that, working and letting people know. We certainly don't want it to flop over into the spring, but the kind of 23, but the kind of things you might see are final seeding and gradings and things like that, that you just can't get to if they get into November and finish it up. So I don't think everybody is real banking on it, that they're in and out next year, but they'll be busy. You'll be using night with them. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
On the north end, is that gonna go all the way up where the three lane is, where?
Yes.
Is that part of this?
Yeah, I think it,
It's gonna say three, I mean, it's not gonna choke down to two and then go back. to
No, the
three.
taper will cause it to be wide back there. Yeah, there's already that turn lane.
I was concerned about getting a short section two lane in there, because it's a real one.
That would be, that would,
That it has three lanes. You break split in there, and you pretty much go with siren.
yeah, I disagree with that. That's a good point. Any other questions?
I got a question about the concrete curbs and the aprons. Are we gonna be able to maintain, if my driveway's all that big? So we've got to keep the apron just about a half inch. Right now, it's existing about a half inch drop below the driveway. Because your crest of the road is usually higher, it runs to the sides, runs down between the curb, goes into the catch basin. Just want to make sure that we're gonna maintain that, because if not, we'll flood the out.
We can look at your particular situation.
My second question on the curbing is, curbing stops well before my driveway. I really like to maintain that, because when I pull a trailer in and out of my driveway, if that curb comes right up, I'll never make the swing. I like to keep it to what the existing already is. Okay.
A couple of things on, looking around, I don't think it applies to this neighborhood, so let's see my friend from the Inquirer here. The official detour is, what we're gonna try to do is direct truck traffic like has been in the past. Really, I don't even know what the message board would say, but trucks advising them to exit on 61, go around the south end of town. You know how that, some do and some don't. Some trucks, like if you go to McDonald's, you want the truck with the eggs in it to show up. So there's deliveries. I think with Bueller's, there'll be a little bit more of that local delivery traffic. So that's, we're accommodating that. What I expect a lot of residents will do is get off 598 at Valero and swing down Keller Drive, get off there at Grant, go to Biddle, and come back around to those neighborhoods that way. So if you're in the Westmore neighborhood, Kessenauer, or whatever, I expect a lot of that traffic that now goes down to the Four Corners and then turns and works out to probably reroute, maybe on a permanent basis. I've talked a little bit with the township trustees and the county engineer to keep an eye on that intersection. Because if you either go out there and see it or think in your mind's eye, there's not a lot of turning radius there. A bunch of deflecting trucks could pose a problem out there, building ramp. So, but I just see a lot of local traffic diverting off and staying out of it. Those neighbors and Timberlane and stuff, they can't do that, of course. But that might be a tip for people who either in the morning they got to get to work or in the evening. So that's I think something to keep in mind, and we'll maintain that. That might get a little sticky at Grant and Keller Drive out there. Okay, let's talk to this gentleman, obviously, lives out there. I know where he lives. So, yeah, and so how will the operation of the signal change if any during the construction? Yeah. Then you're gonna be out there all the time, it'd be like the school crossing.
Well, just to get out of the drive.
Yeah.
I mean, exit 1 minute.
Yeah.
figure out who's going to drive the slowest and pull out in front.
There's 3 houses there, I think, on the west side. We live in the middle.
It's a problem.
2, yeah.
Other one was down.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't live there.
This is, yeah, it's out there. Well, anyways. We're not gonna give you an actuator. that you can- so- It was a good, nice try, but I think that was the answer. I think I don't know, there'll be a turn lane. There isn't a turn lane going south, correct? So in the post world, there'll be a turn lane to separate the through traffic on 598 from those turners that want to use Grant to get to Fairview to get to Market Street. That's, I think, one of the, but where you live, once it's over, it ought to improve. Okay. We put through red and big chance.
No, turn right on it.
Yeah, I live right on Portland Way. It's amazing how much down by the hospital, how much more traffic there is. Pick your shot and get out.
So Grant's only gonna be 2 lanes.
There'll be a,
Turn lane.
yeah, the first thing I wanted to mention is the detour. The second thing is not to be confused with this project. Okay, although these guys may bid on it, who knows? There is a project that the city has funded with a local money and a pocket or a pool of state funds to add a left-hand turn lane on eastbound Grant. So as you come out, pardon me, I would disagree with that.
Not when you gotta sit there and wait for somebody trying to turn in town. Go recycle the light,
I don't disagree with you. I gotta meet with these guys pretty soon. I'm not dumping on the township, but that's their road. And they, once the 3 legs are improved, it'll be pretty clear that somehow or another, either the county funds or city or township funds, or maybe state funds, we need a left-hand turn. Yeah, like, I don't know if you get much economy on that. I don't want to venture a guess, but, pardon me? We just might. I guess my answer to that is we're getting done what we can get done. And,
just say, don't make another problem.
can't fix all of it.
So out there on Frank, head west, 4 o'clock, and try go north on 590.
100% agree. We were using have the great big pothole, that'll slow them down. We didn't realize that's a very good strategy. We built that. But yeah. I think at some point that'll get done, but it's not gonna get done with this project. And the turn lane on the other side, the northbound coming off of the commercial industrial area, I'm somewhat surprised we got it, happy that we got it. Just by way of information, we can move ahead. It's about that turn lane that will go in separate from this project, but at about the same time, that's $150,000. So if we could scare up another 150,000, that's for the construction, and then there's about $50,000 design cost to design that turn. So that's what we're looking at. That as a community, we would have to add with the turn lane. But I'm in favor of it if we can get the money to pop up, we would sure. But I think it's downstream. It's a few years from now. What else? What other questions?
Contact if we're having issues or problems with what things are going on, so that we're not bothering the wrong people.
I got you. It's kind of that's a funny question. I used to work with these guys here. So I learned at ODOT that you give them the name of the person who's not here at this meeting. I think that's probably the,
That we need. Okay.
okay, this is the public information person.
I am, yeah.
Well, I wish somebody would have made her known. I've not
I'm
met you.
sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't want to sit up in the front.
You did the
My
shot.
my name's Crystal Nealon, and I'm the public information officer with ODOT District 3. And so I was going to share with y'all that also every week we're going to send out a construction update when there are changes to the project. So once we get, probably this year, we won't have as much, but once you guys get set up and have traffic and its flow next summer or spring, it'll probably be set for a while. And then, like the contractor said, they will give you updates when they're gonna be working in your driveways and things like that. But once things start to happen and you start to see traffic pattern changes or anything like that, my office will send out updates. We post those updates on our website, we post them on social media. And we also have a link on our website that you can go to sign up to get a personal email. So when, you know, if nothing's changing, you don't need to get an email every single week, basically saying it's in the exact same traffic pattern. But if they're gonna switch traffic or close a road or be working on an intersection, every Thursday, we send out an update to say, hey, expect this for next week. And so to sign up to get that email, you can go to transportation.ohio.gov. And there's a link right on our front page, and it's a big red envelope. It says sign up for emails here. So that will give you an update every week. But if you have any complaints or anything like that, my phone number is all over ODOT's website. You can call me at any time, and I work closely with the project engineer and our area engineer, and I can typically get a hold of them very quickly to get information or find out what's going on. If something is out there that you don't like, I can try to help with that as quickly as I can.
Thank you. That is very helpful. What we'll do is on the city's website, looking back at Matt, we'll make sure that website address that she gave you is up there. If you didn't write it down, you go to the city's site. And if you're not internet oriented, we'll try to get you in touch with our phone number at the city. I think what we want to try to do is avoid the calling the guy in the trailer who is a local person with questions that you can answer and that have to do with scheduling stuff. The complaint questions, they'll have to have a way of getting right to the person that can fix it. What other thoughts or questions? I didn't know, I had never met you, so I apologize.
okay.
I didn't mean to do that as I introduced you.
That's okay.
Go ahead. Oh. What else are on people's minds? From experience, what I found is that if you have a couple specific property questions, just stick around and Josh or somebody can show you maybe I hope it gives you a little bit more confidence. You may not like it anymore than, I think at the very south end of the project on the west side, there are some tight ones, and the reprofiling of those driveways is something that I think everybody from the designer to the guys and gals that are going to build it, they're aware of that. They'll want to make it unknowable or steeper slope getting in and out of your driveway. And then, of course, on the east side, it's a little bit lower, so you gotta, you have to balance in between. So.
No, we're staying very close to the existing group.
Now we're gonna institutionalize it.
This happened after July 30th, right then.
Oh, yeah. No. On the bridge, on the overpass? No.
150 feet up from grade.
That's okay. Yeah, just, yeah, the farmer had it, in maintenance schedule. All right, what else do we have? We don't have to stay here all night. The collection basket, we already asked at the office. There's a lot of city money in this, so it's important that, you know, as you're affected, you give us feedback. If it's not going right, that you get your questions asked and answered. You know, once it's done, it's really hard to do or. All right, Grace Point, there's a Grace Point rep, thank you. It's like when we have a congregation that represents half the people in town, this is what you're supposed to do, is open it up, and we thank them for that. And I think if there is anyone here, it's a large congregation, I'm saying that in a positive way, but they create a traffic jam for themselves on Sundays, and so that turn lane there will be really nice for people who are Sunday morning. You should be taking it easy, not in such a darn hurry, but you know how folks are. So this will be, I think, a really good for them. I think it helps at Timber Lane, but I think there's times of day where you're going to sort of plan getting in and out of your neighborhood, mostly out of the neighborhood. That's kind of what, as the truck traffic has grown. Anyone else have a final thought or comment? Matt, thank you for coming. So we need a couple, $3 million. Appreciate that. I think the state contribution in this was 2.75 million. That's money that Josh helped the city go compete on a state basis. So it's a situation where in my recollection, we've had one fatality. It really didn't have to do with the project out there, but what I think is still positive is that oftentimes when people complain, well, the only way to get safety money is to have somebody hurt or have a lot of accidents. We were able to have more accidents than we want, but it wasn't this, one major accident after one. Feel pretty good about that. The breakout of the local cost. The city couldn't have done it without state and federal money in it, and it's not ODOT's job to fix up highways like this. Well, look at the back of the room. I haven't stepped in it tonight, have I? I meant the mud one. Any other questions before we go? All right. Well, thanks for coming. I hope it's been useful. It's been useful.